Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathering today in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq. And as we collaborate with partners and celebrate the works of writers from all across our 4 Atlantic provinces, we acknowledge that our work takes place on the ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqiyik, Passamaquoddy, Beothuk, Innu, and Inuit peoples of what is now known as Atlantic Canada. We also recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, contributions, and stories have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. My name is Oriana Dunker. I'm the Executive Director of the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia, and in that capacity I sit on both the boards of the Nova Scotia Book Awards and the Atlantic Book Awards.
My name is Marilyn Smolders, and I'm the chair of the Atlantic Book Awards. Welcome, thanks for coming. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the Canada Book Fund of the Department of Canadian Heritage and Support for Culture. The nonprofit Atlantic Book Awards Society is grateful for our sponsors and supporters and wish to extend particular thanks to Atlantic Books Today, Halifax Public Libraries, and the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia, as well as the Cabot Trail Writers Festival. And a special thank you to our gala sponsor tonight, the Frisians Corporation. Thank you also to the 5 sets of jurors who worked hard to select this year's shortlists and winners, our official booksellers this evening, Bookmark, Halifax, and Woozles, our ASL interpreters, Hunter and Julia, all of our presenters and readers. And thank you also to our live stream team, Mark Pinio and Paul Robinson.
We'd like to invite out a special guest tonight to help us warm the room. Raymond Sewell is a poet professor and a singer-songwriter from the Pabonneau First Nation. Welcome, Raymond.
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm wearing the hat for aesthetic, but I was out in the sun today, and I got a perfect line right across. My partner's like, "You're not going to go perform with that line." But I'd like to sing a song. We start all our events with a song, so I'd like to sing a nice song to get the energy going, and then I got to scoot because my babies are waiting, but so glad to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me. Abu Gwanwinin is kaminu mukduada sualinin. Yo ya hi ye ya hi yo ya hi ye. Yo ya hi ye ya hi yo ya hi ye. Yo ya hi ye. Abu Gwanwinin Dandeli El Nukosudamadiye. Abu Gwanwinin Dandeli El Nukgedabegiadiye. Abu Gwanwinin Niskaminu Mukduada Sualinin. Yo Yahi. Abu Gwanwinin Dandeli El Nukgeda da sualinin. Yo ya hi ya hi oh ya hi yo ya hi ya hi oh ya hi yo ya hi ya hi oh ya hi yo ya hi yo. Well, all y'all, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Raymond. That was awesome. And now our host for the evening, Portia Clark, is the host of Information Morning on CBC Radio across mainland Nova Scotia. She's been hosting the program and starting our morning since 2018. She grew up in Digby County. Portia has been with the CBC for her entire 26-year career, working in both TV and radio. This is her first time hosting the Atlantic Book Awards. Welcome, Portia.
First-time host, long-time reader. Thank you, Marilyn, Oriana, and Raymond, for the warm welcome to all of you as well. How are you feeling so far tonight? Excited? On the edge of your seats? Me too. Welcome, everybody, to these 2024 Atlantic Book Awards, to the Gala. We have a special event, as you've already been feeling, I'm sure, this evening. We're pleased to once again be able to live stream the event tonight, so people from across the region and book lovers everywhere can see the awards and take part. So extending a special welcome to all of you who are watching online. Can we make them feel welcome as well? Good crowd, good crowd. So for anyone in the room who's taking photos tonight, perhaps with the winners, with each other, enjoying yourselves with the books, we're encouraging you to send those photos into the world by tagging Atlantic Book Awards so other people can see all the fun you're having and rush on down here right away. We have Bookmark Halifax and Woozles here as well, as you can see, selling copies of tonight's nominated books if you'd like to browse through those and shop after the show. The Atlantic Book Awards Society is holding a raffle as well, which you probably noticed on the way in. How could you miss it? That is not a basket, that is a whole room. It's amazing. I had a quick look at some of the things that are there from Bishop's Cellar, of course, lots of books. There's cider as well, which is ever so charming. Had a quick peruse of the poetry that's on the cider, how appropriate. It's from Island Folk Cider House. Oh, to be a fruit bat. Forget the shortcakes, the cream pies, the strudel. Give me the juicy, the sweet, the crisp. Pluck the stems or eat them whole. Swallow the seeds, consume the core, harvest your joy. Orchard, field, or jungle, anywhere could be the home of some satisfaction. Oh, to be a fruit bat. But if that can't be, then perhaps a drink? There's all kinds of goodies in there, including from Venus Envy. So, if you would like a chance to win that raffle and also, of course, support the Atlantic Book Awards Society, it's filled with all kinds of titles that are nominated, things that pair well with books. Apparently, you just scan this. Yes, there it is, the QR code, and the proceeds from the raffle will support the Atlantic Book Awards Society and, of course, authors. Just a quick note, washrooms are outside and to the right, and you shouldn't bring your drinks with you, just to respect the library's rules. So that's where you find that if you need it. Well, why don't we get down to the business? How do you feel about that? Let's do it. Our first award is celebrating excellence in books for children. The Anne Connor Brymer Award for Atlantic Canadian Children's Literature was established by the family of Anne Elizabeth Connor Brymer, who was a dedicated educator and Atlantic officer for the Canadian Children's Book Centre. Here with us tonight to present this award is last year's winner of the Brymer Award, Nicola Davison, the author of Decoding Gray. Nicola, welcome, and come on up here. Nicola's going to present the jury citations. Thanks, Nicola.
Hello, everybody. The nominees for the 2024 Anne Connor Brymer Award for Atlantic Canadian Children's Literature are Alma Fullerton, The Journal of Anxious Izzy Parker, Second Story Press. Vicki Grant, A Green Velvet Secret, Tundra Books. George Paul, Kepmide Dahane Ektebegyahan, Le Chant d'Honneur, The Honor Song, Bouton d'Or Acadie. Jack Wong, The Words We Share, Anik Press. The Journal of Anxious Izzy Parker, written by Alma Fullerton and illustrated by Bina Mystery, is the story of 8-year-old Izzy Parker, told through her classroom-assigned journal entries. Izzy's writing about her thoughts and feelings gives young readers a unique insight into her life. Izzy has severe anxiety and has recently relocated to PEI from Toronto after her parents' divorce. And Izzy's fears of saying or doing the wrong thing make her feel like a scared little mouse among her peers. Izzy is determined not to be that mouse at her new school, but to be a brave lion instead. Fears and anxieties still overcome her resolve sometimes, but with the help of strategies from her doctor and an emotional support dog named Gandalf, Izzy begins to make friends. Izzy Parker's fears are laid bare to us in her anxious journal entries, sometimes sad, sometimes funny, but always honest and sincere. The Journal of Anxious Izzy Parker provides an important window for young people to see what life can be like living with anxiety, and that there is also hope, controlling such anxious feelings through therapy strategies. The Green Velvet Secret by Vicki Grant is the story of 12-year-old Yardley, a quirky and eccentric girl with a close relationship with her equally eccentric grandmother, Gidge. When Gidge is diagnosed with terminal cancer, Yardley must come to grips with a grief she's never experienced as she helps her grandmother put her final affairs in order. When the cancer treatments become too difficult for Gidge and she chooses to receive a medically assisted death, Yardley has difficulty accepting the loss of her grandmother and her best friend. Inspired by Gidge's belief in reincarnation, Yardley begins looking for her grandmother in everyone she meets. When she meets a woman with a mysterious connection and an eerie resemblance to Gidge, Yardley is convinced that her grandmother has returned and devotes herself to proving it. A Green Velvet Secret grapples with complex issues of grief, mortality, and regret, tackling difficult themes with nuance, compassion, and sensitivity, all while finding heart and humor in its telling through the eyes of its passionate young protagonist. Kepmide Dahane Ektebegyahan, Le Chant d'Honneur, The Honor Song by George Paul, illustrated by Loretta Gould and translated by Hélène Deverenne and Barbara Syllaboy, tells George's story of how and why he created the honor song. George is a survivor of the Shubenacadie Residential School, a system designed to strip him and Indigenous children of their language, culture, and way of life under the mistaken goal of assimilating them into the mainstream society. Many children were abused in these schools, and the residential school system has been called a cultural genocide by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It can take a lifetime to heal, even 2 lifetimes, or more. But George Paul's message is clear. When those who have been harmed are ready, perhaps when they might be at their lowest, it is the resiliency and creativity residing in their hearts that lends strength and power. Words, song, and dance will live on. The honor song has become an anthem among the Mi'kmaq people. The Words We Share by Jack Wong stars a young immigrant named Angie who is pulled into her dad's chores because of her proficiency in English. Dealing with home deliveries, ordering items from a menu, and grocery shopping on his behalf. She even starts her own translation business, a sign company, to help other newcomers better communicate with their customers. The experiences of immigrant children and the vital roles they play may at times force them into challenges beyond the scope of childhood. However, Angie deeply appreciates how hard it's been for her dad, and when mistakes are made, it is her dad who gently guides her to a solution. Told and illustrated with humor in both English and Cantonese, this is a warm, entertaining story with universal appeal. Pronounced Yi Yu Tong Sam, the title in Cantonese means the same heart in different languages. How beautifully this captures the theme. And now Gavin Breimer will announce the winner. Where is he?
Thanks so much, Nikki, for that review of the books that are nominated tonight. I'm Gavin Breimer. I'm the son of Anne Connor Breimer, and it's my great honor to present the award tonight. So, without further ado, this year's Anne Connor Breimer Award for Children's Literature. The winner is The Words We Share by Jack Wong.
Hi everybody. I'm so honored to be receiving this year's Anne Connor Breimer Award for my book, The Words We Share. I've actually been doing a lot with this book recently. I was fortunate to be part of Children's Book Week hosted by the Canadian Children's Book Centre. And actually I was on a train to Moncton when I got the exciting news of this award. And I've also had the chance to do other presentations, some of them focused around Asian Heritage Month in May. And some of the things that I would share about this book with young readers are still very much on my mind. One of the things that I would share is that writing from someone's cultural heritage or cultural identity or another kind of, let's say, intrinsic identity is kind of like having a setting in which to place our story. And it's a setting that's ready-made and full of rich detail, and you already know it inside and out. At the same time, as the many writers and readers in this room will know, our stories are not about our settings. And in that sense, our settings don't really have anything to say about what can happen in our stories as they unfold within those settings. And as a proof of concept, I've actually asked hundreds of kids in my different presentations and visits if anyone could have guessed ahead of time how The Words We Share was going to end, and I've yet to meet one. Having said that, this really is the first time I've written using my background as my setting and giving myself that ethos in writing it without limitations. And there were certainly a lot of times where I wasn't sure that was going to yield fruit. And so this award is such incredible affirmation, and I'm so honored and grateful and also hopeful for what that means for all writers who are meeting the challenges and nuances of representation. As long as we can let those concerns fuel our dual expression of both our truths and our imaginations. As usual, I have so many people to thank for this award. I'll never be able to thank them all, but I'd like to thank my editor, Katie Hearn, and everyone at Annick Press, my publisher, for taking a chance on this project way in its infancy. I'd like to thank Sal Soller and Emma Fitzgerald and Woozles and Blockshot Books, who are all part of a really fun and also very meaningful launch for this book. And I'd like to thank my mom and my dad and my sister for everything, not least inspiring the story in this book. Lastly, I really wish I could be there to celebrate with everybody. And I want to congratulate all the nominees and the winners, and I hope you're all having a great time. Thanks to the Writers Federation of Nova Scotia, the Atlantic Book Awards, and to the Breimer family for your incredible continued support of children's literature in our region. Thanks so much.
Jack Wong, the winner of the Anne Connor Brymer Award for Atlantic Canadian Children's Literature, joining us online there. He's a lovely person, and it's a beautiful book. So huge congratulations, and thank you, Gavin, for presenting it. We now have Cecile Kung, the founder of the Cantonese opera group, Phi at Studio, who's going to read an excerpt or perhaps all of Jack's book. Jack met Cecile through a public presentation of Cantonese opera. I think it might have been right here at the library. I was walking through the library on one of the days it was being presented in any case. And that opera was put on by her studio. So he's especially thankful for her presence here tonight, as the connection they've made goes hand in hand with the themes of language and community in this book. So please welcome Cecile Kung.
The words we share, 異語同心. A lot of the time, when someone's at the door, Dad needs my help to speak to them. Just like when we go out to eat, and Dad asks me to choose his meal from the menu, which means I also get to pick dessert. Or when we're at the store, and I have to double-check the labels to make sure he doesn't buy pet shampoo by mistake, just like that one time. Angie, 唔該你啦. Thank you, Angie. Dad still speaks only in Cantonese. We both knew just a tiny bit of English when we first moved to Canada, but I've learned lots at school since. That's why I help him out sometimes. One evening after supper, Dad lays out paper and markers on the kitchen table. Art time. Not quite, he says. He's been given a new task at work, making some special notices around his building. He wants to tell me in Cantonese what the signs are supposed to say and have me write them out in English for him. I thought we were going to draw pictures, I want to say, but I can see Dad needs help. These are brilliant, you are a pro, Dad says, beaming at me. Hey, I bet there are plenty of other people who need things written in English for them, like signs for their store, I told Dad. I could start a business. If they should be so lucky, he says. First, I go to Miss Fong, who owns the canteen in Little Chinatown where we go for lunch sometimes. 太好啦！我一直想喺外邊立個牌，碼頭嗰邊好多高級咖啡店都有㗎。That would be wonderful. I've always wanted to put a sandwich board outside, like those fancy cafes down at the waterfront, she says. We make a deal that I'll update her sign with the weekly lunch items. We then fast forward a few pages when Angie's sign making business is in full swing. Angie, Angie. A few days later, there is a call on the phone for me. Another one of your happy customers, Dad says. It's Mr. Chu, but he is not happy at all. He tells me someone followed my instructions for the laundry machine, and now all their clothes were shrunken, and they were mad at him, and he sounded pretty mad at me. I can feel my face hot again against the phone. I want to hide. "點樣啊？或者我可以幫你㗎？" What's wrong? Dad asks. Maybe I can help. But the problem is, he can't. He's the reason I'm writing things in English for people in the first place, and the last person who could fix it. All of a sudden, I turn from hot to cold. I feel very alone. 我哋去見下洗衣店老闆啦。 Come on, he says, let's go down to see the owner together. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecile Kung. Isn't it a pleasure to be read to? It's one of the things I was looking forward to about tonight. We're going to present the J.M. Abraham Atlantic Poetry Award next. It's named in memory of Father Joseph Murray Abraham, who is a missionary and humanitarian and a prolific writer. It's administered by the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia. Last year's winner, Nancy Lee, is going to present and introduce the nominees, the author of Shin. Nancy? Please welcome Nancy Lee. Nancy.
Evening, everyone. I had a real treat to actually hear all of the nominees read Sunday night, and yeah, wonderful writers. It's an honor to present the nominees for the G.M. Abraham Atlantic Poetry Award. Joe Bishop, Indie Rock, University of Alberta Press. Matthew Hollett, Optic Nerve, Brick Books. Sadie McCarney, Your Therapist Says It's Magical Thinking, ECW Press. Fawn Parker, Soft Inheritance, Palimpsest Press. And Harry Thurston, Ultramarine, Gasborough Press. And here's what the jury citations have to say. Joe Bishop's Indie Rock is a tightly focused study of enjambment, a collection cut sharp against a salt bleached stone run, soft by the shush of white water. The poems operate in a place where lust and obsession is reconstructed out of its traces, out of collapsed ashes and bathwater. In this way, its shapes are seen through slant angles and half dark. They hammered, hulled all night. By daylight, the poems explore a proxemics of love and the spaces that exist after the loss dims. Quote, I picked her a pitcher plant, drowned in her leaf, died for her carnivorous swallow. Darkly innovative, the collection proposes a way to move past loss and recovery and into a world beyond them. Matthew Hollett's Optic Nerve sees the world in a triptych of close glances and spectral perception of places and times only recently lost. The early days of the pandemic and the time just before, when each day dawn broke with a dull blade of vapor scrapping a razor-burnt sky. In 3 sections, in camera, in negative, in print, the poems present a kind of theory of ghosts, a relay longing for the chance to see what is formless and knows its shape. In this landscape, even the land glances back, and even a gritty traffic island is seen as an eye with its mascara of snow. Richly imagistic and at times spectral, the collection questions our perception of the natural world, built spaces, and each other. Confident, rhythmic, and surprising, Sadie McCarney's sophomore collection, Your Therapist Says It's Magical Thinking, explores the complexities of living with mental illness. This dynamic book opens on a sequence of poems spoken in the imperative, parroting the pat language of self-care culture. The result is both funny and devastating, and the air of defiance established in this section carries throughout the book, as the poet considers both historical and contemporary experiences of neurodivergence. McCarney's introspective poetics opens up to a consideration of the broader world that surrounds her speaker, offering new insights into common, but still too often unspoken experiences. In poems that navigate a mother's death from breast cancer, Fawn Parker's Soft Inheritance boldly refuses sentimentality, mother-daughter cliches, and easy divisions between health and illness. Among the inheritance of emotionally weighted objects, such as a car, a diamond, a couch, the speaker's body is marked by its own accumulation of vulnerabilities and scars. Parker attends to the wounded places with direct language that startles with its originality. Seen up close in overheard conversations, diaries, dreams, medical events, and sexual relationships, Parker shows us that grief is both brutal and utterly ordinary, and that the poet's unflinching observation can be a powerful act of devotion. And finally, last but not least, Harry Thurston's Ultramarine is a central reading for our times. Combining a naturalist's gift for attention with a poet's keen ear, this collection offers thoughtful, musical poems on childhood, family, and non-human animals. At the heart of this collection is an extended meditation on the workings of time, explored through poems spanning decades in the speaker's life, as well as other pieces that gesture towards time's unfathomable reaches. Life is terraced time, stone upon stone, stepping down the valley, up the mountainside, from Green Lizard. Varied in both form and tone, this is a probing book that pays fitting homage to the little wonders of our world. Give them all a big hand. And the winner is Soft Inheritance by Fawn Parker.
Hello. I didn't prepare anything because I really didn't think I would win. But thank you to everyone involved, the jury, the Atlantic Book Awards, to my publisher, Amy Perrant-Dunn, Jim Johnstone, who really has been championing my poetry for years, to my agent, Ron Eckel, my editor, Kelly Joseph, my partner, Karen Smythe, who just is the best, and to my mother for also being another kind of best. Thank you.
Fawn Parker, the winner of the J.M. Abraham Atlantic Poetry Award. Congratulations. Now we're going to have Gary Williams and Colleen Arcturus McIsaac read some of the poems from Soft Inheritance, but I'll introduce them first. Gary Williams is an award-winning theater artist, musician, and avid reader based in Halifax, Jabuktuk. Last year, he received Arts Nova Scotia's Established Artist Award. His score for the musical Pinocchio won Best Original Score at the 2024 Merit Awards, and he's been the artistic director of DePopo Theatre since 2004. He is currently the co-administrator of the shared art space The Nest, and you may catch him performing this weekend in Bottom Dwellers at Eastern Front Theatre Stages Festival, and this summer at the Clyde River Pageant on Prince Edward Island. He also directed my daughter's musical Annie last year, fabulously. And cast her as Annie. Nice to see you, Gary. And Colleen Arcturus McIsaac's an award-winning multidisciplinary artist based in Mi'kma'ki, the artistic producer of the Villains Theatre. Colleen is an MFA from NSCAD University and a Bachelor of Media Arts from Emily Carr University, so both coasts covered, and is interested in making things and supporting their communities. Please welcome Gary and Colleen to perform from Soft Inheritance.
Fasting for God. I was introduced to the idea of starvation at the mercy of men by my mother. Walking into the parting crowd, she pointed and said, "He loves you, he loves you." When she's wrong, I blame the men. The way they stomp their boots on asphalt, on porch steps, in the basement, into the precious diorama my horned father built to cage my small, small mother. I'm presented with the microphone, asked, "What is it called if you get the worst hand possible?" My mother, beatless, says, "Marriage," and laughs. She embellishes. Each time she embellishes.
A cover over everything. The first snowfall came in the night, a cover over everything. Depressing the posture of the trees, I awoke impatiently to the grief and novelty in our differences on the world clock and the weather. I was shoveling when you texted me you'd slept fitfully. I'd rushed inside to tell you that a bird fell out of the sky and landed in the mouth of my shovel, but forgot when I reached my desk, agreeing dishonestly that I'd also barely slept. In fact, the night disappeared in the flash of dream. This always happens. Boarding for Toronto, I remember my fear of flying too late. Disappointed, you refused to come with me to beg the pilot to stop. The plane accelerates, banks left, and I wake, the heaviness of my body in takeoff no more than the duvet, heavy and white and feathered. I shed the mess of bedding and went outside in your sweater and boots, worked at the snow until the bird fell. I figured the thing was dead, or if not, would somehow disappear on its own. I couldn't stand the thought of trying and failing to save it.
Makes you want to read more, doesn't it? That was Gary Williams performing Fasting for God, and Colleen McIsaac with a cover over Everything by Fawn Parker. Tonight's actually the conclusion of a week-long festival of book events that many of you will have been part of. The 9th Annual New Brunswick Book Awards were presented at a live event on June 1st in Moncton. The awards are administered by the Writers' Federation of New Brunswick. Lisa Alward won the Mrs. Dunster's Award for Fiction for her short story collection. It was called Cocktail. Sarah O'Leary was awarded the Alice Kitts Memorial Award for Excellence in Children's Writing for The Little Books of the Little Brontes. Charming title. And a special congratulations to 2 of our nominees who were awarded last week, including Fawn Parker. Fawn was named the winner of the Fiddlehead Poetry Book Prize for Soft Inheritance. And the Writers' Federation of New Brunswick Nonfiction Award was awarded to Anne Covell for Mary Pratt, A Love Affair with Vision. So congratulations, again, in order. And then on Monday, we celebrated the Nova Scotia Book Awards. Huge congratulations to those winners. The Dartmouth Book Award for Fiction went to Amanda Peters for The Berry Pickers. Evelyn Richardson, the Nonfiction Award, went to Karen Pynchon. Kings of Their Own Ocean, Tuna, Obsession, and the Future of Our Seas was her book. And we're going to hear that name again. George Borden, Writing for Change Award, went to the late Jen Powley for Making a Home, Assisted Living in the Community for Young Disabled People. And the Margaret and John Savage First Book Award for Nonfiction went to Karen Pynchon for Kings of Their Own Ocean, Tuna Obsession, and the Future of Our Seas. And the Margaret and John Savage First Award for Fiction went to Michelle Wombolt for Birth Road. So congratulations to all of those nominees as well. And of course, to their fellow nominees too, so many talented writers in this part of the world. The inaugural Reader's Choice Award, this is a first for these awards, invited readers to vote for their top pick, and you voted and you voted and you voted. After 2 rounds of voting, over 3,000 votes were submitted, came up with a top 10, and then finally a winner. The top 10 are Freddie the Flyer by Daniel Metcalf Chennai and Fred Carmichael with Tundra Books. Hi, Danielle. Congratulations. I know Danielle from way back in our Edmonton days. Hold My Girl, nominated as well by Charlene Carr from HarperCollins. Congratulations, Charlene. I Want to Build a Sea House by Whitney Morin and Jose Besayan by Nimbus. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. Congratulations. Life Sentence by Amy Bell, Nimbus Publishing. Light of Day, by Trina Christie McEachern with Moose House Publications. Congratulations to both of you. Again, Kings of Their Own Ocean by Karen Pynchon by Knopf Canada. Dead Die Twice, Penny is dropped. All right, I'm dropping that thing. I'm gonna move it around. The Light of Day by Trina Christie McEachern, Moose House Publications. Kings of Their Own Ocean by Karen Pynchon, Knopf Canada. The Dead Die Twice by Steve Skafte with Nimbus. Recipe for a Good Life by Leslie Crew with Nimbus as well. And Roar by Shelley Thompson, Nimbus. And Still I Cannot Save You by Kelly S. Thompson with McClellan and Stewart. Those are all of our nominees for the Reader's Choice Awards. Do we want to find out who it is? This is the award, folks. I'm told 3D printed moments ago. Okay. And the winner is Freddie the Flyer by Daniel Metcalf Shania. Which has been added to the Dolly Parton Little Library, by the way, among many other honors recently. Congratulations, Danielle.
Oh my gosh, Portia just can't get rid of me. She moved away from Edmonton. I chased her all the way across. Look at this. This is adorable. And I also, as a mom with a couple of kids, I understand and appreciate how sometimes you are just doing things on the fly. And yes, there's another pun with the aviation. So I really feel like I'm accepting this on behalf of Team Freddie, and not just because I rallied hard for this inaugural Reader's Choice Award. I've only lived in Nova Scotia and Mi'kma'ki for 4 years. I've moved around a lot, and part of that has meant that I've lived in places like Houston, Texas, and Edmonton, and I've just been so wonderfully gifted with writing communities in each of those places. And so, you know, I started writing this book in 2018. People think picture books, oh yeah, you just pop them out. But, you know, today I'm wearing some jewelry from Inuvik in the Northwest Territories, where Fred is from, and his beautiful wife, Mickey, who worked so hard on this book with me. Audrea Lorene Wolfe, the illustrator, is in BC. So I know they're all here. They learned how to do that Google form, guys. I mean, you know, Fred is 89 years old. This is his first picture book. He doesn't understand how hard it is to get the kind of recognition that this book has gotten, and it's all because of his incredible story and because of Audrea's incredible art. Yes, I'm a crier, okay, but thank you. Just wonderful and just so awesome. Come on, guys, so awesome. Thank you.
Congratulations, Danielle. Danielle Metcalf Shania, the winner of the inaugural Reader's Choice Award. I'm thinking it'll be back next year. The Atlantic Book Award Society established the Atlantic Legacy Award in order to honor those who've made a lasting contribution to the development of the literary awards in Atlantic Canada. Those are the people who've gone above and beyond through innovation, through taking risks, sacrificing, being creative, providing opportunity and inspiration for those who are sharing Atlantic Canadian stories in particular through writing and publishing. And here to present this year's Atlantic Legacy Award is Craig Smith. Come on down, Craig. Welcome, Craig. Good to see you too.
Good evening, everyone. A legacy. Anything handed down from the past, from an ancestor or a predecessor. I've known Gloria Wesley now for some years, and I've been amazed at her love of educating and writing. Now, with at least 5 books to her credit, she has carved out her place in literary history. She has positively contributed to telling the African Nova Scotian story that marks our place in Canadian history. Gloria has blazed a trail worthy of others to follow, and I am glad to call her a friend. And I am honored to present her with the Legacy Award.
I started out with 10 pages, but I'm taking mercy on you. Thank you, Atlantic Book Awards, for honoring me with this incredible award. First, I must thank Sergeant Craig Smith for nominating me. I'm proud to say he's a fellow author, a true friend of our community, plus a protector and promoter of our community's legacy. This award means a lot to me because creating the untold stories of African Nova Scotians is no easy feat. One book can take years of research, which can end in finding a mere crumb or two. So I'm delighted to be recognized for my hard work as someone who is inspiring and enriching the lives of others through my books. It's very uplifting for me. Why do I write? The answer is simple. With a calling that spans 49 years, since my first book was published, I must write. This compulsion to write did not consult with me. I had no idea I was going to be a writer. I just knew I had to get the words down. My motivation to write also stems from the fact that for over 2 centuries, we African Nova Scotians have been absent from the historical record. When I published my first book in 1975, the only known footprints for an aspiring Black writer were those of the late Dr. Carey Best, broadcaster, human rights activist, author, journalist, and publisher. And she was a very close personal friend. Her foster daughter and I attended Teachers College together, and I couldn't wait to go and visit her home and meet Dr. Carey Best. Dr. Carey Best in 1946 co-founded the Clarion, which in 1949 became a national paper called the Negro Citizen. It was Dr. Best who relentlessly sought out publishers for my book of poetry, and who eventually secured Leo Bertley, a Black professor at Vanier College in Montreal, to come to my rescue. Tonight, I really want to thank her, and also I extend thanks to my family for all their encouragement and for loving my books. It didn't matter what I wrote, they'd say, "Good on you, Mom." They are a hoot. And they put up with me when I take time out from them to meet deadlines and attend events. Also, many thanks to Bruce Johnson. His endless support and encouragement enables me to reach higher heights and to embrace my creativity. A very special thanks to Roseway Fernwood, because they took a chance with a newbie to publish my first 2 novels. As well, I wish to acknowledge the role that Nimbus and Laurymore Publishing had in my writing journey. They understand the necessity to fill the vacuum that exists because of the lack of Black literature. They support a diverse group of Black writers. I must also thank and express my gratitude to the many librarians and educators across this country for promoting my books. I'm always anxious to do Zoom calls with people across Canada. It's very, very fulfilling. It is to a large extent their efforts to share our history and cultures for all to enjoy, and it builds bridges to the world. I know that this Legacy Award is awarding my previous body of work, But guess what? I'm not through writing, even though I'm years old. It is, to a large extent, their efforts to share our history and cultures for all to enjoy. I know that this legacy, this legacy award is for my previous body of work, but I'm not through writing yet. I have lots of ideas. Trust me, they come at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and I have endless notes beside my bed. So God willing, I'll be around for a while to create more books. In closing, I'd like to quote a very, very wise man, Mr. Forrest Gump. Do you remember what he said? Life is like a box of chocolates, y'all. You never know what you're going to get. So, to all who enjoy the wonder and the power of books, don't be shy or humiliated or intimidated to tip your hand at writing. As this award demonstrates, you never know what you're going to get. So in closing, I hope you all have a good evening, and once again, thank you.
Ann Wesley, the winner of this year's Atlantic Books Legacy Award, leaving a legacy and also a ladder for others to climb. The Atlantic Publishers Marketing Association Best Atlantic Published Book Award, sponsored by Friesens Corporation, goes to an Atlantic Canadian publisher whose book best exemplifies excellence and achievement in publishing in Atlantic Canada during this past year. The jury for this award considered all of the elements involved in getting the book out of minds and into the hands of readers, and all of those steps in between, including supporting the writer in so many ways we've heard about tonight. And here to present the APMA award is Ryan Hildebrand from Friesens Canada. Please give Ryan a warm welcome.
Well, congratulations to all the award recipients and the nominees thus far. We have the great pleasure of printing many of these books, and so I can never read quite enough of them, but it's a joy to see what all comes through our doors. On to the award. The nominees: Breakwater Books, Impressions of Newfoundland, The Art of Ting Ting Chen by Ting Ting Chen. Goose Lane, Mary Pratt, A Love Affair with Vision by Anne Koval. Goose Lane, No Ordinary Magic, The Art of Lori Swim by Carol Bruneau. Vagrant Press, Recipe for a Good Life by Leslie Crew. Breakwater Books, Impressions of Newfoundland, The Art of Ting Ting Chen by Ting Ting Chen. The jury appreciated the technical artistry that went into rendering the photography of Ting Ting Chen into the book form. They were also struck with the beauty and intensity of the photographer's friendship with her muse, Robert Tilley, and how his integration into Newfoundland's history made for an interesting contrast with the photographer's world traveler background. Goose Lane, Mary Pratt, A Love Affair with Vision by Anne Koval. Anne Koval does a masterful job of presenting Mary Pratt's wonderful art and seamlessly weaving together biography and thoughtful art criticism. This is an extraordinarily beautiful book that combines a striking visual look with a text that is rich in both scholarship and insight. Goose Lane, No Ordinary Magic, The Art of Laurie Swim by Carol Bruneau. The jury found that this history of the acclaimed artist's work as a quilter did a thorough job of explaining for the layperson the skill and ingenuity involved in making fiber art, as well as how well Swim's pieces integrated into the arts landscape of the Atlantic provinces. With excellent photography showing off the works in question, the book captivated in its integration of text and image. Vagrant Press, Recipe for a Good Life by Leslie Crew. This exuberant romantic romp set in the 1950s, Cape Breton and Montreal is full of good humor, lively characters, and as its title suggests, delicious food. A burnt-out mystery writer, local color, and a master baker all combined to make this a delightful read. And the winner is... The winner is Mary Pratt, A Love Affair with Vision by Anne Kovar.
Thank you, the jury, Suzanne, Julie, Goose Lane, the whole team were extraordinary to work with. I had brilliant editors. I had a wonderful subject, Mary Pratt, who I just wish she was here, and I think she is here. She was an incredible, she is an incredible artist, and I think that it was a no-brainer for me to write this book because I couldn't help but respond to how her life wove into her paintings in a way that was incredibly revealing. The Pratt family, I'd love to thank them as well. They were extraordinary, Anne Pratt in particular. I really appreciated their time, especially after Mary's death in 2018. They've been an integral part of this team, and Mary as well. Just to say that I couldn't have done this book without her. She was very much a collaborator in the beginning. And I'd also like to thank my family. Yeah, and just this whole book award. And thank you.
Publishing is very much a team sport. It is not the work of one person, but the work of many. And over the years, I've learned just how many people it takes to make a book. It certainly begins with the author who comes to us with an extraordinary idea and a concept. And I will say that Anne actually was very patient with us as we went back to her and asked for more, and then she gave us more and we asked for less, but that's another story. But I'm proud to say that two of our acquiring editors who actually touched the book are actually with us tonight, Karen Pynchon and Simon Thibault, both of whom are here, and I'm so actually delighted that they are here to see the fruit of their labor, their very long labor. This is a book that also, for our perspective, benefited from COVID, and it allowed a longer development period, and it meant that, in fact, the book could perhaps be more than, in fact, we originally envisioned. But there are many, many people who touched this book. The editorial team led by Alan Shepard, who's our managing editor, and Meg Taylor, who was the first editor on the book, who did an incredible job working with Anne to bring it together. Julie Schreiber, who's also here, who's our creative director, who is responsible for the look and the appearance of the book. And as many of you have commented, what a beautiful book it is. and we're very, very proud of that. But there are many, many other people who work behind the scenes at Goose Lane, everyone from our marketing staff, Ben Burnett and Jeff Arbo, Shauna Deeth, and Oriana McLaughlin, all of whom worked so hard to actually get this book into the hands of readers and to accommodate Anne's every wish in terms of touring. And we essentially toured Anne across the country as much as we possibly could, and Anne was so responsive and so active in actually finding places to actually perform and read and to talk about Mary. But most of all, I want to, like Anne, want to thank Mary Pratt for being, we published a book by Anne, about Mary almost 30 years ago. It was the first book that we published by Mary, and since that time, Mary was one of our great supporters, one of our great champions, and we're so proud that we were able to publish this book in honor of her and about a life and a work, and in her work, life well lived, and work that is incredible and will last more than a lifetime. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Anne Koval, the winner of the Atlantic Publishers Marketing Association Best Atlantic Published Book Award. And we're going to welcome Colleen Arcturus McIsaac back here to read from Mary Pratt, A Love Affair with Vision by Anne Koval now. Thank you, Colleen.
Like a stick ablaze, I flare up, meet a few drops of water, cool for a moment, only to have the flames leap across the cool, and I run again till some flick of fate almost quenches the flame. And though I live on the edge of the sea and look with fascinated longing at the spray, I am still like a ribbon of fire that flares and glows and calms and flares again along the wet sand of the beach. Mary Pratt closely identified with the element of fire, as this journal passage from April 1997 attests. In her large mixed media works, such as Burning the Rhododendron, 1990, she captures something of the shifting, ephemeral nature of a brush fire on the winter shoreline at Salmonier. By the mid-1980s, Pratt began working with a mixture of watercolor, chalks, and oil pastels on large sheets of paper. Her more gestural approach to painting and drawing was easier than working on the oil paintings with her small brush and oil paints for months on end. At this time, Pratt's arthritis was increasingly debilitating and intensified by the stress of her relationship with Christopher. As Mary recalls, my life had come to some kind of climax, and I gravitated to fire. This new work marks a cathartic release from her marriage and is a significant departure from her more demanding still life paintings. Already in the early 1980s, Pratt explores the theme of fire in her oil paintings Fire Barrel, 1981, and Christmas Fire, 1981, which depict an old burning barrel used at Salmonier to burn leftover Christmas wrap and yesterday's mistakes from the studio. Pratt describes how in Fire Barrel, the proximity of the flames to the sharp images of ice and snow seemed not only beautiful, but somehow important. She deliberately references Robert Frost's poem, Fire and Ice, with the lines, "Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire." Pratt depicts both fire and ice in her work, but given the choice, she favors fire as the more passionate and transformative element. Burning the Rhododendron captures this desire, allowing the heat of red to melt into the cools of blue. These fire paintings and drawings mark a distinct departure for Pratt. At the time, she was preparing for the exhibition Aspects of a Ceremony, 1986, coping with her recent diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, and all the while suspecting that Christopher was having an affair with his studio assistant, Jeanette Meehan. As many women do at 50, she began to reassess her life and her career, and to explore new methods of working. In October 1985, after looking through a recent issue of Canadian Art, Pratt writes, "I really have, as they say, missed the boat. That fall issue featured new works by Gathy Falk, one of the contributors to the group show Some Canadian Women Artists, which Pratt also participated in a decade earlier. Falk's current retrospective exhibition at the Vancouver Art Gallery featured large gestural paintings of kitchen chairs and cabbages. Mary writes, "I see the big, loose work of so many artists, and I find it strong and appealing, like my Big Mac, Decked Mackerel, 1987, which is still unfinished." Her impulse to go large and loose was strong. The more demanding still life work still interested her, as she equivocates, "Do I really prefer the stuff I do? So close and intense for me, so boring for anyone else?" Pratt wrote about the transformative nature of fire and ice in her article, The Magic of Glass, 1999, in the Glass Gazette, included in her book, A Personal Calligraphy, 2000. The article begins with reminiscences from her childhood in Fredericton. "I thought that when I grew up, I would make mountains of glass, as jagged and enormous as the great chunks of ice that careened down the St. John River every spring. We lived on the bank of the river, and the wonderful excitement of the spring freshet was the highest point of the year." She writes of the fires her father and neighbors would light along the riverbank, where lines of fire licked dangerously along the bank between us and the grinding ice. She vividly recalls the smell of the smoke, the smell of the ice, the crackle of the fire, and the steady groaning of the river was more spectacular than a carnival. Pratt writes, "When I did grow up, I discovered that a glass mountain would be difficult to make." She admits, "So my plan to put icebergs of glass on the riverbank had to be kept inside my head." As a mature artist, Pratt realized, "I could paint its equivalent. Somehow I could gather all that magic into pictures as scintillating as real glass or ice. I could recreate great roaring fires. I could celebrate with crayons and chalk and brushes all the wonders I wanted to keep, to never forget."
A wonderful look inside the mind and the creation of Mary Pratt. It demands a full read by a roaring fire with something in a glass with ice. To the next award, this is the Thomas Raddall Atlantic Fiction Award, which is valued at $30,000. Yes, $30,000 in that small paper bag right there. It's the largest literary prize in Atlantic Canada and one of the largest in the country, in fact. This prestigious award is intended to provide writers with the gift of time and peace of mind, which, as we heard there, can be so elusive. It's administered by the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia, and to present this year's nominees via video is the winner of the 2023 Raddall Award, K.R. Bigden, the author of Wonderworld. Oh, you're here! Surprise! I'm glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. Yes, as last year's Raddall winner, I know how special and meaningful it is to be nominated. And I also know that this part, the part when you're waiting for people to stop talking and for the envelope to be opened, is the worst part. So I will simply say, as a jury, what a privilege, honor, and joy it was to spend time with your wonderful words over the past few months. And how lucky are all of us to be living in the same time as your beautiful and powerful words. The nominees for this year's Thomas Raddall Atlantic Fiction Award are Violet Brown, This is the House That Luke Built, Goose Lane Editions. Charlene Carr, Hold My Girl, HarperCollins. Amanda Peters, The Berry Pickers, Harper Perennial. William Ping, Hollow Bamboo, HarperCollins. And Michelle Porter, A Grandmother Begins the Story, Viking Canada. About This Is the House That Luke Built, the jury says, incredibly touching, plumbing the depths of grief and pain in the first days following a tragic accident, and interweaving the 10 years afterwards, This Is the House That Luke Built is a non-linear marvel of storytelling. Told primarily from the points of view of his widow, Rose, and daughter, Emily, who was only 53 days old when her father vanished, this is the poignant tale of Luke Tremblett, one of 5 men lost at sea off the coast of Newfoundland. Debut novelist Violet Brown draws from her own personal experience, and it is evident in the deep, dark, tender beauty of her writing. Short chapters capture precious moments in life and death in crystalline prose. There is a flow to her storytelling, which evokes the rhythm of a life lived according to the whims and uncertainty of the ocean, a knowing held by generations that things can change in a moment that goes bone deep. There is clarity, humor, abiding love, loss, and sorrow in these pages, but it is ultimately a healing journey Brown takes us on. From the very first page, indeed the very first sentence, Charlene Carr ratchets up the tension and emotion of this tug-of-war family drama. There's been a deliberate switch of eggs at the IVF clinic. 2 women were impregnated, but only 1 pregnancy resulted in a healthy baby. Which mother, surrogate or biological, is worthy of raising 1-year-old Rose? On one side, there's Catherine, the uptight clean freak with a beautiful home and devoted husband, the woman who birthed a healthy child. On the other side, there's Tess, divorced, estranged from her parents, her university education abandoned, the biological mother. Told from both women's perspectives, Hold My Girl is a riveting, can't-put-down read. But it is much more, raising questions about IVF and motherhood through the lenses of class and race. While readers are apt to devour Hold My Girl, the issues Carr raises will linger long after the last page has been turned. One summer day in 1962, a 4-year-old Mi'kmaq girl vanishes from the blueberry fields of Maine, where her entire family toils. Her brother Joe, just 2 years older, is the last to see little Ruthie, wearing a hand-me-down sundress and sitting contentedly on a rock at the edge of the field. The story of the berry pickers is told through alternating perspectives, that of Joe, who is consumed by guilt for decades after Ruthie's disappearance, and of Norma, a young girl with an overly productive mother and dreams she can't make sense of. Ultimately, there is a reunion in the berry pickers, as revealed in the book's opening pages, no spoilers, but only after so much pain. In less capable hands, the berry pickers might have been weighed down by its sadness and grief, but author Amanda Peters imparts a powerful message of truth, forgiveness, and most of all, love, a moving and poignant debut. Hollow Bamboo is a unique piece of metafiction, by turns a hilarious and harrowing account of the first Chinese immigrants to arrive in Newfoundland in the 1930s. Weaving together family history and fiction with a dash of magical realism, third-generation Chinese-Canadian author William Ping tells the story of the first William Ping, his grandfather, who faced a multitude of hardships and soul-crushing disappointments in an inhospitable land far from home. It is to Ping's considerable credit that he has fashioned a multi-layered book which defies genre and incorporates elements of autofiction, myth, and satire to propel the story of a millennial who doesn't know who he is or where he's headed, until, that is, he is transported back in time to connect with the grandfather he never really knew. In this, his first novel, Ping has created a cast of unforgettable characters who take root in our hearts and fashioned a plot which hurdles between farce and horror. The result is a real page-turner, almost cinematic in scope, which illuminates as much as it entertains. In A Grandmother Begins the Story, Michelle Porter produces a singularly sweet harmony from a polyphonic chorus of distinct narrative voices: land, spirit, animal, human, object, who join together to tell a tale of loss, grit, tenderness, and renewal. Love flows through these pages like a river overspilling its banks, bringing healing and homecomings to 5 generations of Métis women in the same family who are each grappling with the daily and cumulative violences of settler colonialism in their own ways. Porter's prose is meditative, free-spirited, and crafted with intricate deftness and care, drawing expansive circles of kinship rather than tidy conclusions. This is a book that quickly draws you into its dance, gifting readers with new rhythms of relationality rooted in traditional forms of storytelling as old as Turtle Island.
To present the award, Thomas Raddall is here. Please give him a very warm welcome. Hello, Thomas.
Thank you, everyone. It is truly a legacy that my father envisioned to ensure that his father was recognized for a lifetime, and it's my pleasure to be here to continue that legacy. I'd like to acknowledge the work of the Writers' Federation, both Marilyn and Ori, and certainly the jury. I understand there might have been, I think there was 48 books this year, Ori? Maybe? Yes? Anyway, thank you. And my family, whom I represent, standing down here, is here tonight, or some of them at least. My wife, Kathy, my sister Debbie, brother-in-law Clary, and my nephew Matthew are also here and very proud of this award as well. Without further ado, I know it's an anxious moment, so I am going to tear the envelope open and we'll see who the winner is. It's Michelle Porter. Congratulations.
I get a little bit nervous, so I wrote a few things up just in case, right? So I want to thank, a really big thank you to the jury for selecting my work. Thank you to the Atlantic Book Awards and the Raddall family for the prize and the gift of time it represents. It really means a lot. But mostly, though, I want to thank my mother and the women in my family, but my mother, and make sure she gets recognized here. I'm a writer now because of her, because of how she held all of us in her spell each night with her stories, like the stories about the little people who would pull children down into the heating vents at night. We loved being frightened before bed. It's not a strategy I took into my parenting. And the stories about growing up in the bush, and about the music of our people, about the band my grandmother was born making music with, the Red River Echoes, that toured across Manitoba and later BC in the 1930s and 40s. My mother didn't play an instrument, but she gave us music in her stories, and I'm following in her footsteps. Now, our people, the Métis of the Western Prairies, have been known by many names. The flower beadwork people, the free people, the people who own themselves. My mother owned herself, and she made sure her children owned themselves. In my first novel here, every character struggles, and every single character is really difficult. But each and every one of them owns themselves, and each one stories themselves into being, like my mother taught me. I'd also like to thank the Métis writers whose stories let me see myself and my family and opened the doors that let me be here. Thank you, of course, to Mira Campbell, Gregory Schofield, Katharina Vermette for all those stories whose path I followed. And to all the other, there's so many, such a resurgence of Métis writing right now. A lot of Métis writers following in their footsteps, writing because these early people made space for us. And finally, I want to thank my 3 daughters and my grandson for being the reason I never give up. Thank you.
the Thomas Raddall Award winner this year, Michelle Porter. Now, Gary and Colleen are going to read for us from A Grandmother Begins the Story. If you would do us the pleasure again, please welcome them back.
Tonight's a party. We're celebrating those of us who just got here, even if it took a long time. Well, by the standards of the earth, we just left, which isn't the way to count time up here. Bob's always telling me that. Time's all crooked up here, he says. Bob's going to make the music for everyone, him and his band. Soon he'll be walking through this tall grass with his bow and fiddle. Soon as the sun starts to settle into the grass for a sleep, soon as the light starts to slip away and the whippoorwills start to sing, he'll play in that old cabin. Everybody's coming to hear Bob play. I'll see everyone I haven't seen since the old days. What about my girls? I ask him. Velma and Genevieve. Bob says, Mamé, don't worry about that. The spirit world isn't the place for worry. They'll be here eventually. Everyone comes here eventually, he says, and he makes me laugh. He's right. And yet, I want to look. I'm new here, but Velma's been in the spirit world a while now. Bob says he's heard that she plays down at the dance hall, but he's never been to a show. Says she only wants the music for company, that she doesn't come around this way much, and when he says not much, he means never. And could I, just for a moment, see Genevieve's face again? Still getting the hang of things here. Anyway, all these stories began with me, got started that first time I heard Bob's fiddle. It's not about me, not anymore. It's not like that. Up here, the stories are us, and we are the stories. Every single one of them. Took me a long time to make my way here, and now it's almost my turn to be the stories, or to tell the stories, as we used to say before we passed. They say everyone does it different. Some tell late into the nights, some gather in the morning, summer or winter around fires or wood stoves, in cabins, teepees, or outside, whatever. When it's my turn, I'm going to bring everyone around an old wood stove, smell of a stew bubbling on top, the heat making our faces pink as the stories unwind. Can't get enough of the telling, which is a good thing, because if there's one thing we've got here, it's time.
A grandmother tells about the time before fences. Young ones were always asking where we come from. Best to say it was, we come from the middle of things. The wind whistled across our backs, and the snow was already swirling so thick you couldn't see over the next hump. So we hunched a little closer to the ground, and I started by telling the calves that after everything that had happened, the middle had been thrown into everything. It was all over the place. But we were all here, and we were all a people. The middle was the beginning of the story. One of the calves said something about too many stories about the old ones. Well, this story isn't about the old ones, I told that calf. This is about the calves. That got their attention. Then they remembered how they were supposed to act when one of the grandmothers or grandfathers got to telling a story as a storm blew in. I lifted each of my hooves one at a time. This storm was going to last for days. There was no rush. I rolled my shoulders back so my cape looked broader, and I rocked back deeply onto my hindquarters, searching for a bit more room in these old joints. They always got stiff when the wind blew like that. It was only when the calves were edging forward, pushing against each other in their impatience, that I started telling the story. We come out of death. We come out of the compassion that flows from an unexpected place. We come out of making our voices heard in the darkness, a darkness deeper than this night of a blizzard, the one we've got coming. We come out of the darkness of losing everything. There are other stories, but they come before or after the middle. The middle is the time death stalked us on the land we belonged to. They say death came in many forms then, with the pale-faced humans and their steel rifles, with the steel tracks they put into the ground and the trains that rode over them. They say the land was pregnant with the death of our ancestors. They say we would have died completely if not for the calves. The little ones couldn't help calling out, "Calves?" "The calves," I repeated, yes. Lots of times, the humans with their guns left the calves to wander instead of wasting a bullet. They knew the calves would die eventually. Any of us would die on our own, without our relations. Think of it, too. There were no fences back then. Used to be herds of hundreds, thousands, stretching farther than you can see. So many of us on the land that you couldn't see the end or the beginning. All you could ever see was the middle. "No way," the calves said to each other. It would take them a long time to start to remember it enough to believe, even longer to figure out that I was telling them about the future. I paused, and I looked at the calves, there at the center of us. Where should I take the story from there? I said, it was the calves who made us what we are today. One of the calves butted her head into the flank of another. They say that after the killings, the calves would wander in the fields of their dead relatives. They were hungry and out of their senses with fear. All they wanted was to lie down and die. Wouldn't you? The calves became perfectly still. And some of them did lie down and die. But some of them, they did something else. A calf shouted, "What? What did they do?" The rest of them giggled. A bit of tension was released. I said, the calves called out to their dead relatives. "Gross," groaned one of the calves. They kept calling for them, the ones who had just been killed by the humans. A pause, and then the same calf said, "Oh, come on, that's it?" I waited until another calf said, "Listen, will you? The story isn't over." I said, this is the way we all begin. The story of this herd begins with one calf who kept calling. We begin with the cry of the young. It's the same after you all are born. We wait for you to call out, even before you stand. The calls of our calves make a community from nothing. That's why you're at the center of us now. It's the calves who teach us what we need to know to survive, to wait, to look for our chance to begin again, always waiting for the moment to be moving on and beginning again.
That was Mame and the Crookedness of Time, and A Grandmother Tells About the Time Before Fences from Michelle Porter's book, A Grandmother Begins the Story, the winner of the Thomas Raddall Atlantic Fiction Award. We do have some, at this point in the evening, breaking news. Marilyn Smelder is going to come and tell us about that. So welcome her back to the stage. This is an exciting development for the Atlantic Book Awards.
Thank you, Portia.
You might have noticed that we're not awarding the Alistair MacLeod Short Story Prize tonight, but the news is this is not a permanent development. It's on hiatus because next year it's coming back, thanks to Bookmark, who is donating the prize money, $2,000 prize, and to the Cabot Trail Writers Festival, which will be administering the award. And I'm so happy about this, and I want to give a big shout out to Bookmark and to Cabot Trail. And that's the news.
That's all from here, folks. It was just a short pause for the Short Story Award, so it's so great that it's back. We would like to extend our heartfelt congratulations to all of you, nominees and winners of the Atlantic Book Awards this year. Applause to all of you for your work, your talent, your creativity, and I know perseverance as well. Huge congratulations. A pleasure to be here. And we'd like all of the award winners to come down as we conclude this for a group photograph, if you will. Don't forget to buy your raffle tickets for that incredible collection out there, and to stop by our booksellers, Bookmark Halifax and Woozles, to buy any of the award-nominated and award-winning books. And thank you so much to all of you for attending tonight, these Atlantic Book Awards.